Welcome to today's webinar, How to Enable Smarter and Faster IT Operations Through AI. Thank you for joining us. My name is Beth Winters, LogicMonitor's AIOps Product Marketing Lead, and I'm joined today by Andy Thurai, VP and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research, and Ranjan Goel, VP of Product Management here at LogicMonitor. As an industry analyst and tech influencer, Andy researches and reports on emerging technology topics, including AI, ML, observability, AIOps, and incident management. Andy, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and Constellation Research?
Absolutely. So we are an independent analyst firm with well-known analysts in each of our coverage areas, as you know. We are more than just an analyst or research firm. We are more of a strategic advisory firm. We advise the CXO level on the future of technologies and how to get to point B in the right way. Let me put it simply. As quoted by an executive, a high-powered executive, CIO at one of the bigger, larger companies recently, you guys are very opinionated, but fair and facts-based. That's who we are, and that's what we do. And as you can see, I cover the AIOps, observability, incident management, general AI, ML, and the overhyped generative AI areas. You can follow me on my social handles. On Twitter, I'm at Andy Thurai. And on LinkedIn, you can follow me, Andy Thurai. I mostly do only LI, but LinkedIn rather. Once in a while, I get into Twitter as well.
Thank you, Andy. Next up is Ranjan Goel. Ranjan is a true industry veteran with 20 plus years of experience in networking, security, and observability. Ranjan actually started as a developer writing SNMP trap receiver and a rule-based event management system for 3Com before leading a number of product lines at Cisco. Ranjan is now leading LogicMonitor's AIOps and Gen AI product strategy, including our new AI-powered event correlation product, Dexta. Ranjan, would you like to say anything else?
Yeah, thank you, Beth. Yeah, happy to be here. And I've been working with Andy for a number of years, and he's always opinionated and honest about his view of the technology and the product. So great to talk to you, Andy.
I hope in a good way, opinionated in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you both, Andy and Ranjan, for sharing your expertise with us today. Before we dive into the topic, we're going to cover a few housekeeping items. You can expand your slide area or maximize it to full screen by clicking on the icon in the top right corner of the media player. And if you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to submit them through the Q&A box, and our speakers will be sure to get back to you via email. Today's session will be recorded, and it will be sent out after the webinar as well. So let's dive into the agenda. Today, Ranjan and Andy are going to start us off by helping us cut through the AI hype to understand the practical implications of AI for IT operations, also known as AIOps. Next, we will discuss the challenges IT teams are currently coming up against, including the results of several surveys conducted by Constellation Research on the topic. Ranjan and Andy will also summarize the benefits of adopting AIOps, and then we'll share LogicMonitor's approach to AIOps and give you an overview of LogicMonitor's latest AIOps product, Dexta. Finally, we'll conclude with Andy and Ranjan's advice on how you can take what you've learned here today to enable smarter and faster IT operations through AI with your own IT ops team. So, Andy, we know that AI and AIOps have been overhyped in the past, and what was previously touted as AIOps wasn't really true AI. It was more analytics and lightweight machine learning. But now customers have more capabilities and more choices available to them. So can you start us off and help us understand what is mere hype and what can AI really accomplish for IT ops teams?
Wait, are you saying AI is hyped? I didn't notice that. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So a ton, actually, right? So I discussed some of this in the two of my reports that you're referring to in the slideshow there. One is Trends in AIOps, and the other one is a CIO's Guide to AIOps. There are many AI use cases, especially the generative AI has brought up a ton of more value into the generic normal use AIOps use cases, right? So let's look at the higher, bigger picture rather than going into details, right? The common issues that I observed across all enterprises, major, minor, cloud, hybrid, cloud native, doesn't matter, right? Incidents, both major and minor, are very frequent than expected. It's not shocking. If you're an SRE, if you're an incident management, you know that. The current way of responding to incidents is broken, all right? It takes too long. You don't find out at times incidents before your customers find out. And then even if you find out, it takes a way long time to fix it by bringing in too many people into the war rooms and whatnot. The cost of incident resolution is almost always very high. The production operations are getting harder at scale, and the complexity increases when you especially bring the AI systems into the mix. When I say AI systems, not AI helping IT, but about scaling up AI systems itself, like large language models and whatnot. The incident responders are overwhelmed by more alerts than they can handle. That's a very key point. Incident responders are overwhelmed by more alerts that they can handle. So the general AI use cases go in these themes. I'm sure we'll talk about some of that as we go along. But generally speaking, the IT noise reduction, alert fatigue reduction, event consolidation, context enrichment, alert reduction, incident enrichment, alert enrichment, those are the common use cases I've seen people use it a lot. And of course, we'll talk about some of the generative AI use cases as well. That's my take.
Great. So, I mean, those use cases, are we there yet in helping solve for those issues in terms of AIOps? Like, where is the hype, and where is what's really possible?
Well, let me take the question first, and then if Ranjan has anything we can add to it. Most of the AI ops capabilities were somewhat of a mirage. People were claiming and just washing it, AI washing it with anything else. There are companies, it was not reality up until maybe even a year ago. But in the last year or so, it has become so easy for various reasons, of course, but many companies, including LogicMonitor, I've seen some really cool use cases that are not only practical, but it's easy to implement, and a lot of customers are using it. It's more of a value driven. As long as, remember that 5 metrics we talked about, I think we're also going to talk about some of the other areas where apps can help with the enterprise. But if you can help solve even one or more of the metrics, that's very valuable to the customer. So it is real. I've seen a lot of customers using it, but the problem what they have is not about solving it, but how you go about solving it. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but some tools are extremely clunky. I don't want to name names, but very clunky to use, very expensive, and then very siloed. It doesn't give what you're looking for. So it's more of a sort of like a smoke and mirrors implementation is what they do. And then later on, they realize it's not working out. And then they need to figure out, but they're already tethered into a specific platform and they can't move on. And that's the problem now. The value that AI use cases, AI ops use cases bring in is a ton, it's real, but choosing the right tool is very important.
Thank you, Andy. That's great. Ranjan, I'm curious, how has the AI hype influenced your decisions in what type of new features to adopt for our LogicMonitor customers?
Yeah, a lot of our interactions with our customers essentially start with a problem statement. Problem statements are, hey, it's taking too much time for me to resolve, too much noise. And as we go up the chain of command, for example, talking to CIOs, it's about team efficiency. Like their support staff is basically firefighting on a day-to-day basis. They don't have time for proactive management. So obviously, there's always cost of operations and reducing the ongoing cost of operations. That's all. That kind of mindset is always there. But AI is bringing this proactive approach to management versus firefighting more into play. And as Andy is talking about use cases, the previous generation tools were very siloed. Like, okay, there's a networking use case or a DevOps use case. And as we talk to the CIOs, they don't want like too many tools, even if it's an AIOps tool for different teams. Then the collaboration suffers during a war room approach. So people are starting to look for a common approach to AIOps across different domains. So especially these hybrid environments are really complex. And if an application is down, whether it's a networking, whether it's storage, whether it's your cloud environment, it's a third party API, all of these could be culprits. And if you have multiple tools, even if they are multiple AIOps tools, it still doesn't solve the problem.
Andy referenced this report. Looking at the 2023 Trends in Incident Management research report from Constellation, we're seeing these top metrics in incident management. It looks like there's a high customer pain point for MTTA and MTTR. I'm also curious from our audience here, if you can drop it in the chat, what is most important to you? And what are the top metrics that you look for in incident management? So while we're waiting for that to come in, Andy, first, can you tell me what is the distinction between MTTA and MTTR?
Yeah, before going there, I would really love to find out what your customers have got to say their pain points are, because obviously the survey, our surveys, I think we did for about 350 people, a group of 1/3 practitioners, 1/3 budget holders, and 1/3 the incident responder managers. And that's the numbers we came up with. I'd be curious to know if your audience thinks differently. But going back to your question about MTTA versus MTTR, look, the incidents are getting extremely complex, especially when you have hybrid applications. You don't even know where the incident strikes, whether it's in the cloud side or hybrid side, or you have a stack that you're building, full stack as we call it. And if one of them has a problem, and then you are getting alerted to death, the alert noise, alert fatigue is pretty high. Sometimes it takes days or even weeks to resolve major incidents. So what organizations have come up and are looking for to do is MTTA, which is a mean time to acknowledge, is essentially to know the issue had happened quickly before your customer find out. Mm-hmm. If your website is down or if your ordering system is down, you want to find it out first, not your customer. So, if you have something like a status page or some sort of an update mechanism, whether it's an email or what have you, by letting your customer know that, look, this system is down, whatever that may be, and we are working on resolving it. And if you're able to even give an ETA, this is when we can solve, that instills confidence with the customer. Look, I mean, incident happens. If somebody claims boldly that, oh, we are incident free for X number of days or weeks or months, they're lying. All right, incident happens, and the frequency, as I mentioned, has gone up. But knowing that you're on top of it makes your customers feel very comfortable. Not only our vendor knows what they're doing, but they already know the problem has come, sometimes even before that, and they're working on solving it, so they're comfortable. Again, you can't continue to have incident, 4 or 5 incidents per day, and then say that, oh, we are working on it. That gets old too fast. But the other metric that you're speaking of, MTTR, mean time to resolution, which is a very normal metric, industry standard metric, which has been around for a while. It's essentially about finding the actual root cause and fixing it up, having it up, have it up and back and running, the service back up and running, or sometimes without fixing the original service, if there is a way you can either roll back or have a backup service kick in. Essentially, you are restoring the service, resolving the service. That's what that is. This also means you have to have a good observability, SRE tools, practices in place. That's what I'm talking about for the MTTR, to fix it up and running. This doesn't mean that you have to alert people to death by creating the alert fatigue, which we hope to discuss later on. So don't give too many alerts. Give insights as necessary, but acknowledge it first before your customers find out. Let them know that its systems are down and work on fixing it quickly.
Thank you. Yeah. Ranjan, in speaking with LogicMonitor users and IT leaders, what type of metrics do they tell you are most important to them?
Yeah, I think all these things, as even the survey from Constellation Research shows, they're fairly similar, depending on the persona we talk to. Like some, as we are talking to CIO level persona, VP of IT infrastructure persona, a lot of time it's time to resolution, reduction in IT cost. And as we go down in the persona, like the people who are actually on the support side or the knock side, for them, it's a day-to-day firefighting. So the alert noise is the fatigue they are facing. Um, and the end users, the business users, they just want to know, as Andy's saying, that, hey, IT is working on the problem. Yeah, so setting that expectation, and that's where the mean time technology comes in, that uh, if an application is down and say I'm a retail person and I want to know if my IT is on top of it, versus I'm opening a ticket and then finding out that, hey, IT was not working on it. And that's very frustrating that, okay, why am the first one in the company as a user to find out these problems? These are all very critical measures. I think a lot of recent AIOps tools try to resolve all of these key metrics in certain ways. But as a IT organization, most of the users are worried about, depending on the persona, um, these top 3 or 4 metrics.
The point Ranjan made, I don't want it to get lost in translation. If you are a big organization, if you have too many incidents, if you're constantly in a firefighting mode, that's very key. You can never continue to innovate. For example, you can do a lot of automation, you can scale up your operations, do whatever. But if you are in a firefighting mode, continue to do that's all you do and spend all your budget. I mean, a lot of companies don't even know what the concept of error budget is and the tech debt and those kind of things. But essentially, all of this adds up to continued incidents, continued firefighting. If you're always in a reactive firefighting mode, you can never come up to solve the problems. You'd be done.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it looks like our customers and the audience here today, this resonates with them a lot as well. They're having some of the same issues that you mentioned here. Moving on to the next slide, we talked about what functionality is missing in most incident management workflows. So it looks like there's 2 main functions that are kind of neck and neck: machine learning driven correlation and end-to-end visibility. So Andy, in your opinion, does observability and AIOps kind of go hand in hand?
Absolutely, absolutely. So not a moment too soon. We remember we talked about organizations are drowning in alert fatigue. So a lot of these tools, again, don't want to name names, they think by when an incident happens, throwing as many alerts as they can onto the SRE, incident management, incident first responder teams is good enough. But unfortunately, not really good enough. It adds a lot of cognitive overload. Their ability to react reduces. The mental health get affected. And I even discussed in one of the latest couple of speeches recently, one of them is yours, talking about the fact that, when a lot of companies have these programs to help with the mental health of their first responders, the SREs and the incident responders teams. And I always ask them, why do you spend time in doing that versus, reducing the alerts and giving proper insights so that won't happen in the first place? And they're like, oh yeah, we should be doing that. But essentially, yes, a good observability system not only will alert you to death, but it'll reduce. Let me rephrase that. It's not about alerting all the time, but the number one thing what you see in the report over there, number one need for the customers, it'll group the alerts and then group it by incidents that happens, and then also prioritize that. So essentially making it less number for them to look at, reduce the cognitive overload. And then also the AI outside of things provides you the necessary insights on what exactly you need to know. So the real need for the enterprises when it comes to a combination of observability and AI ops, a good implemented solution on both sides of it should be able to help you find out the incidents before anyone else finds out, as soon as, sometimes even before the incident happens. And the second one is immediately acknowledge it, tell your customers that you're working on it, find out the root cause, have the insights for the incidents from your tools or tool, and find out the insights and fix it and let them know it's fixed. That's the bottom line. And we have a siloed implementation, too many tools, too many alerts from all levels of stack coming in. You're not going to do that. Like I said, the good observability system is not just about alerting someone, but about providing insights on how to solve it. That's my view.
Thank you, Andy. That's great. Ranjan, what do you make of that? Is that, AIOps and hybrid observability kind of converging into a single path?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the survey results show something similar, that the machine learning AI technologies they're getting mature. So as Andy's talking about, grouping, prioritization, correlation, all of these things. But right after that is, okay, hey, I now have some insights, and I can start working on those insights to basically in a war room situation. But then I still need data to resolve that insight and fix it. And all of this data is in the observability tool. And if these two systems, AIOps and observability systems, are not really interconnected together, you still have a problem where, okay, hey, the insight says there is some problem with the VMware, some problem with the storage system. And if I'm trying to find out through logs and metrics and traces, there's still just too much manual process. And what I see from this survey is the IT teams are looking for a bit more automation in this troubleshooting approach, where all this context and data is at their fingertips, even after all these alerts are correlated into an insight.
Thanks, Ranjan. So going to the next survey question, which of the following incident resolution use cases have potential to benefit from innovations based on AI? I'm also curious as to what our audience thinks. So definitely drop it into the chat. What is most important to you? What use cases are you currently looking to solve right now? So Andy, within AI, we've mentioned a lot of different use cases, but it looks like from the survey, root cause analysis is most important. What do you think about that?
So when we asked this question, so obviously, as you can see, the top four are somewhat closely aligned. I was thinking the number two, which is the highlighting the duplicate or reducing the alert noise, correlating the incident tickets, would come out on the top, almost like SIS 80%. But I was a little surprised with the survey results that root cause of incident is where they want to use AI as a number one, which was a little surprising answer as a number one answer, but I get that. In other words, as they say, if you can't find out what's broken, you can't really fix it. So you'll be running circles all day. So I guess that makes sense. But again, all the four that's listed in here, we have seen major enterprises use it very effectively, finding the incidents, finding the root cause, have the runbooks to auto solve incidents. Auto resolution is a pretty key thing, as someone was pointing it out once. Rather than whenever an incident happens, whether it's major or minor, rather than creating a war room, inviting 100 people, and wasting all of the time. By the way, on that note, I have to mention this. I talk about this in my report. We talked about all this MTT metrics early on. The one metric that we didn't discuss here, but it's a very key metric, which I found during my survey and my conversation with the CXOs, they created a metric called MTTI, which stands for mean time for innocence. So if you get called into a war room, if you can prove that you didn't either directly contribute, or one of your services, what you're maintaining or managing, didn't contribute directly to this incident, and you have nothing to offer to that, if you can prove that, you can leave and then go back, continue your production work. That's another major issue a lot of major enterprises are having, because if you don't know where the incident is and who is capable of solving it, they invite everybody into the war room, and then it'll be wasting so much of wasted time and cognitive overload from that front as well. So these are the things I've commonly see. And again, it's a little surprising that root cause is number one, but it's not overly surprising.
And it sounds like a lot of solutions do a combination of these things. It makes sense that there's a high response for all four, like you mentioned.
Right. And again, it comes to a point that, it's not about what you think, whether it's an analyst or a vendor, what do you think is important? It's about what the customers want. That's why you always need to talk to them. I mean, if you build this, and if this is what they want, well, why are we wasting our time, right? You need to go to the source and ask them, what is your problem? How can I solve it?
Yeah, and that's really interesting. I mean, so identifying the root cause of incidents, Ranjan, have you heard about that from our customers as a main use case as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And as even in the previous slide, we were talking about customers are looking for this combination of observability and AIOps, and that feeds into the root cause of incident, because essentially all this data that observability systems are picking up, all this telemetry, that's where the root cause is hidden. And even if you focus the support staff into the insight, identifying the root cause requires you to parse through that data. And that's what survey is saying, that, okay, hey, I need AI to help in that job, that still there's a huge amount of data. And if there is an approach to extracting a critical aspect of that data to basically spotlight where to look at, that helps my all these metrics, MTTR, MTTI, MTTA, essentially. So it makes sense to me.
Great. So moving on, there's so many benefits of AIOps and all of these different use cases as you outlined in your reports. But let's focus on two benefits: reducing lengthy downtime and moving from reactive IT to proactive IT. I know that's something that LogicMonitor really cares about. So Andy, reducing lengthy downtime, what have you seen actually implemented by your customers? What type of results have you seen?
We're going to talk about only two, not about all 15. Come on. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
If we had more hours in the day.
Yeah, of course. So right, there are about 15 or so benefits that I discussed in my report. As you can see, the report is obviously mentioned there in which report it is, the CIO's Guide to AIOps. That's based on my conversation with the CXO level, right? So constantly, all the C-level, particularly C-level technology operations executives, CIOs and the chain, they keep saying that if an incident happens, depending on who you are and the needs, the benefits can vary, of course. But when an incident happens, I want to reduce the downtime. There are people who even constantly mention that I would love to find out my incident even before it happens, like the Jedi tried, right? So if I can find it or even resolve it quickly, or more importantly, I can even avoid it. There's a concept of a self-healing enterprise that we talk about. I did a couple of speeches on that as well. So they want to get there, whether proactive and then get ahead of the incidents instead of being a reactive IT when things happens, go fix it later, or incident, if it happens outside of your control, fix it as quickly as possible. So those two that you mentioned are among the top needs for every organization. Fix it up quickly rather than chasing incidents all the time, and try to avoid it if possible. I have quite a few reports on it, on the AIOps observability and incident management areas, and I talk about these themes constantly. Also, would love to hear from your audience on what they want to hear next when it comes to report. I obviously write a lot of reports, but I want to find out and write what is important to them. I mean, these are the 15 areas that I heard, but if there are other things that I'm missing, I would love to know about that as well.
Definitely. Yeah, please do drop it in the chat or reach out to Andy via LinkedIn, as he mentioned before. So, Ranjan, when we talk about at LogicMonitor moving from reactive IT to proactive IT, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think for us, what it means is you reduce the firefighting mode for the support staff, and that gives them time to spend on proactive management and proactive monitoring. So, for example, if from a capacity planning perspective, if I know my CPU cores, my hard disk, my S3 buckets, how they are performing, so that I can position all these services and their capacity appropriately beforehand, versus my S3 bucket is full now, my database that's relying on it or data lake that's going to fall over, and the applications on top of it will fail, and that's basically the reactive approach. So definitely you need to reduce the firefighting, give time to the IT teams to be proactive, and that improves the overall service availability in the future.
So how do you get like really predictive about planning?
Yeah, so predictive about planning is you need to ensure that your observability tool doesn't have any blind spots. As we're talking about VMs, EC2s, Kubernetes clusters, the full hybrid state, you are observing all of it. And then you have basically intelligence built into your observability tool that not only is just monitoring and telling you about alerts, it can alert you that, okay, in 3 months from now, you'll run into capacity issues. Today's IT environment is such a complex thing that it's very difficult for a human to look at the whole IT state and start to do capacity planning. So that's where AI also in the embedded intelligence approach in observability comes in, that these systems can start to forecast for you and alert you in advance. And that allows you to be proactive and still leveraging AI, that it's not a manual approach to be proactive. The AI is still helping you.
So, Ranjan, can you walk us through LogicMonitor's unique approach to hybrid observability and AIOps? We have this architecture diagram that maybe you can walk us through.
Yeah, absolutely. So LM Envision is essentially hybrid observability powered by AI. And we want to make sure that every aspect of your hybrid coverage, from infrastructure monitoring to cloud monitoring to application monitoring, there are no blind spots. And when we are ingesting telemetry, we are ingesting telemetry for every aspect of this hybrid infrastructure. But it's not just about ingesting telemetry and making it easy, but having this layered approach to AI, that you have anomaly detection, dynamic thresholds, AIOps, generative AI, all these things working together to basically help you in your day-to-day job. And our unique approach to observability is bringing observability and AIOps in a converged platform.
Let's dig into that a little bit more. What do we mean by layered AI in LM Envision? What other types of features does LogicMonitor have?
Let's dig into our layered approach to AI, which is very unique in the industry, where whether we're ingesting metric, logs, events, all of these basically have essential AI components to it. And the result, essentially, what we want through this layered approach is drastically reduce the alert noise, reduce the MTTR, all the key metrics we just talked about, and essentially give the time and assistance to the IT staff so they can automate the resolution, they can get these actionable insights, and they spend less time troubleshooting, and they have time to be proactive. So that's basically our final frontier of being more proactive, less firefighting, and the metric approach to measure the success is reducing the MTTR, improving the service availability.
Well, we've talked about our layered AI approach. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about our newest AIOps feature, Dexta?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dexta we introduced last year. It has great customer reception since then. And what we are showing here is the high-level architecture of Dexta. It injects huge volume of data through the observability. After that is the enrichment and contextualization of this data in real time, because alerts are happening in all of this in real time. So the key capability is all this AI that is kicking in has to be in near real time. And when I talk about enrichment and contextualization, so if you have a threshold alert on a CPU and the CPU is reaching 100%, the enrichment and contextualization is that we know that, hey, this CPU is on a Windows server, that Windows server is a domain controller, and that domain controller is in the Virginia data center. And once you know that, then you know that, okay, hey, is it really critical for me to pay attention to it or not? Like, what's the impact? And the next step in the pipeline is the correlation and deduplication. That happens automatically in Dextra. And we have a lot of rich machine learning models. We ship out of the box these machine learning models. One of the unique approach in Dextra is all these models are open and customizable. So obviously, as part of the implementation, these gets customized. But they too, if the customer feels that, okay, hey, I've added more capabilities, more applications in my IT infrastructure, and these ML model is not behaving more optimally, they can go and fine tune that to their needs. And then comes in the pipeline the summarization and prioritization parts, and this is what also Andy was talking about. That you once the insight is generated, you really need to tell the IT staff that, hey, this is a critical time critical insight. Pay attention now. And some of these insights may be proactive, like, okay, hey, this S3 bucket is going to get filled up in 3 months from now. So the summarization and prioritization that way is critical. And for summarization in Dextra, there are a lot of AI-based natural language processing capabilities. So because of this nature of data, there is just huge amount of data and very sometimes technical data, especially for the first line of support. What we really are doing is using AI to simplify all of this data. And I'll go through some of these screenshots to show that. And end result is you can resolve all these issues faster, and you can start to be proactive and prevent them in future.
Before we get into those screenshots, Andy, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the report that you created about Dextra.
Yeah, I recently looked at your Dextra solution. I created a report, an offering overview report for your Dextra, where I discuss some of these capabilities. At least the top two, the categories that I've created, includes, some of your AIOps use case solutions. For example, the one I discussed in the report is about the IT noise reduction, alert fatigue reduction, and even event consolidation. That's one. And the second one that I discuss in there is the use case of the context alert and incident enrichment. So you could, when an incident happens, you don't just get alert, but you also get some context related to the contextual information. So you're able to figure out the root cause quickly from that. And I also include some of the detailed discussions about some of the Dextra offering. But the conclusion, what I have here are a few things that came out of the report, right? One, essentially for organizations, the last few years, especially when the pandemic happened, keeping the lights on, because every business, of course, moved into become a digital business. Keeping the lights on became the very key priority because that's their business, and keeping it online is extremely difficult. And they started getting way too many alerts. And obviously, as we all know, the ServiceNow tickets are not cheap. It costs per ticket wise to resolve and incident numbers. And obviously, you guys discuss that quite often. When you have too many incidents, and there are companies that have that too many incidents going to auto incidents into the ServiceNow as tickets, if one incident happens, you can't create 20, 30, 40, 100 tickets for the same incident. You need a way to figure out and consolidate them all into one. Ideally, you should be able to create only one ServiceNow ticket per incident. In reality, it may or may not happen with many organizations. They get too much alerts, and then they auto create tickets, and then people try to chase everything they can. They bring in too many experts, as I talked about. I talked about this MMTI. So all of those are issues. And the conclusion, what I have in there in my report, as you can see, is the Dexter is a no-brainer in our view, in addition for the existing LogicMonitor observability clients, because the bottom line is that they help reduce the tickets and consolidate the tickets into some. And the other thing we also, based on what we have looked at, we concluded was the Dexter's machine learning models are customizable on the fly without a need for retraining like some of those other models are. So the customers have an option to change the parameters, like a parameter tuning of the models on the fly, which is also very useful. And then the other thing we found, obviously this is all in the report, I'm not making up on the fly. In addition, what we found was that the Dexter actually adds the plain language contextual information to the ServiceNow ticket, which can help actually on why the ticket was created. Because when you look at the tickets, otherwise, it's very cryptic at times. But adding such contextual information can be very useful. Those were the conclusions from the report, of course.
Well, thank you, Andy. That's a great summary. We do have that report available as well in the resources for everybody who's watching the webinar today. But Ranjan, maybe you can show us what that looks like in real life now.
As Andy was talking about, the first thing is about reducing the alert noise. And what you see in the gray graph at the top is huge volume of events. These are the raw events, and they get deduplicated into the blue alerts, and then they get into handful of insights. Imagine that happening on a day-to-day basis. So your IT operations teams are now focused on just these actionable insights. The second thing, as we talked about the summarization and natural language processing, is what you see on the first row in this table for insights is you don't even have to open it. The way we design Dexter is keep it as simple as possible for the first line of defense in the support staff, second tier in escalation chain and things like that, is this auto tagging capability. So right away, I know this particular insight has something to do with VMware, something to do with storage. And if I'm a first line of support, we talked about mean time to acknowledge, I can right away escalate into the right teams versus inviting 10 experts randomly into a war room, and then they're chasing this problem. And so I can right away, if it's happening middle of the night, open my escalation chains with the VMware team and the storage team, and acknowledge that, okay, hey, the incident like this is happening and the right teams are on. And that helps to reduce the mean time to resolution also. And Dexter is integrated very closely with ServiceNow. We have a validated integration with ServiceNow that's hosted on ServiceNow App Exchange. It's bi-directional with both ServiceNow ITSM and CMDB. What you see here is for this particular insight, a ServiceNow incident was created automatically, and all these details basically were streamed into the ServiceNow ticket automatically.
Let's look at the dashboard as well. When you first come into Dexter.
So obviously, there are multiple personas coming into Dexter besides the support staff and war room staff coming into Dexter are the managers and directors and VP level personas. And these dashboards cater to different these personas, where I'm not chasing as a persona, say a manager for my IT support team, individual insights, but I want to see the efficiency of the system. What we see on the top is 43,000 events, which were raw events. They got correlated into 92 insights. And then you want to see how the severity and how they are prioritized, which part of my hybrid infrastructure is basically generating the most volume of insight. So this becomes a bit more proactive that, hey, those teams have to pay a bit more attention in upkeep of that side of the house. And there are a variety of these things, which is all customizable. You can customize it based on teams. You could have the similar dashboard created for your VMware team and your cloud team or a storage team. So you can start to see the efficiency in each of your support teams.
So when that does get created into a ServiceNow ticket, can you walk us through what does that look like, and what are we seeing?
Yeah, so this is basically a screenshot in Dexter. The same information will show up in a ServiceNow ticket. And in this particular one, for example, we using natural language processing and our AI systems, we summarize that, hey, there were 11 alerts that were correlated. This happened during a duration of 21 hours. And all these tags and everything is detailed. And by the way, you can go into the ML tab here and see why we correlated these. So everything is very open and transparent. To build basically the trust in the AI system, a lot of time the AIOps solutions are built as a black box because the vendor doesn't want to share their proprietary algorithms and things like that. But that leaves this notion of, okay, hey, do I really trust the system or not? And we keep it very open and transparent. So in case you see that, hey, this is not working based on my needs, you can go and update these parameters also. And that's a very visually simple process. You don't have to be a machine language expert or get into a CLI. You can just go into our visual approach to ML, and as you group and correlate things in real time, we will show all of that.
Thank you. That's great to see. Taking what we've covered today, our topic here, we want to enable smarter and faster IT operations using AI, helping alleviate the pain points that we mentioned and driving business value. So how do we do that in practice? Can we, Andy, can you kind of walk us through what would be the first steps for somebody who's looking to adopt a solution?
So what we observed, this is in conversation with hundreds of major incident response teams or professionals who does major incident response. Alert fatigue is real among IT ops professionals, be they whether it's SREs, incident responders, or DevOps teams. Is very, very real. We have also observed that many employees needing time off for mental health due to the stress and high pressure major incident situations. And there's also a lot of employee burnout, so they just leave the company if they can deal with that. And then it takes time for any enterprise to hire new personnel and then train them up to come to speed and able to handle the incident response and or SRE work. So generally speaking, enterprises are looking for a solution that can reduce that pain, immensely decreasing employee burnout. Essentially, the hygienic IT operations is a major theme that's happening with the enterprises because, during the pandemic, it's about keeping the lights on. Teams have added more tools. It has become more fragmented, created as many alerts as they can, so can they chase the things down. But now the reverse of that is happening based on what we have seen. Tool consolidation is happening. They want to get less alerts and more insights. And they want to make sure that, they're able to figure out the root cause of the problem fairly quickly. They want to fix the issues, as you have seen earlier, as soon as possible. More importantly, almost everyone we talk to, they want to become, because they're under a cost pressure, their budgets are getting cut. They want to become a more proactive IT rather than reactive IT, because that's, as Ranjan was saying earlier, you can't be in a firefighting mode always. So you need to become more of a proactive IT, identify things that's going to happen before, and then try solving it. The hygienic IT operation, like I said, is a major, major, major theme. Now, ops employees are fighting back, whether it's SRE, incident management, or incident responders. That's what we observed.
Ranjan, for you, what kind of advice would you give to IT ops leaders who are looking to enable smarter and faster IT?
First, I want to thank Andy. He has so many insights. He has talked to so many CXOs, and he has been sharing it on LinkedIn, through his reports, through through the webinars. So thank you, Andy, for sharing all these insights today with us and our customers. And from our perspective, we had a webinar in January, and we shared some of these our thoughts. In today's webinar, we went into a bit more detail from a product perspective. But when we basically reach up and try to summarize what we have discussed in the previous webinars and today's webinar, first thing is there are high level of pain points, as Andy was also talking about, across various personas. So if you want to pursue an AIOps solution, just make sure you identify these pain points. You summarize it for your company and the management chain. You look at variety of use cases, and sometimes you may have to pick a few use cases to start with. You can't implement every use case day one, and that's what we talked about last time also. Start somewhere in an agile manner and prioritize after you have prioritized the use cases. And then as you work your operations and workflows, you really need to fast track everything that you're doing through AI, and that is going to yield really good results in terms of reducing MTTR, reducing MTTA, reducing MTTI, all the key metrics that you're looking for. And AI systems today, as we talked about, they're maturing fast, they're trustworthy, and good AI solutions are very transparent and open. So they're not really black boxes of yesterday that you have to be an ML expert to operate. Today's AI systems are really simple to operate and very open and very visual in nature. And the notion is to basically help in your day-to-day operations and really fast track your IT.
Thank you so much, Ranjan, and thank you, Andy, again, for sharing all of your wonderful insights today. Thank you as well to our audience. I think, we've had a really great discussion here. If you're interested in learning more about Dexta or our other AIOps solutions at LogicMonitor, please reach out to us and the email provided, AIOps@logicmonitor.com. You can also download the Constellation report on Dexta that we talked about here today in the resources widget. And if you want to see hybrid observability powered by AI in your own environment, you can click that Ready to See More button to learn more about that. And please also visit us on our website at logicmonitor.com/Dexta to learn more about the solution. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, everyone.